Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Madals, and today I have got an awesome ladder game between two incredibly talented players. Let me introduce them. In the top left position, we do have the red Zerg player. It is EG's Suppy, and in the lower right, his opponent, the blue Protoss. It is Minigun. So, PvZ, it's a fun matchup. I know I've done quite a few of them recently. It is purely because apparently a lot of Zergs and a lot of Protoss players have decided to have games. So whenever North stuff comes up, I do always cast them. I cast an awful lot of things, as I'm sure anyone who's visited my channel before knows. And as a result, I just cast everything that comes up pretty much in the order it comes up. So, as we can see, we've got Minigun chucking down that pylon on the low ground, ready to take a Forge Fast expansion. Very well could be a Nexus first. It's a good map to do it on. Meanwhile, Suppy gone for the extractor trick, so there's pros and cons to going for the extractor trick. At the end of the day, people tend to do it if they just like doing it. Some people think it's fun to do. I've done it enough times on ladder and things just because in early game there's not much else you can be doing, so might as well play around with an extractor trick. So, in terms of Minigun, what we're looking out for is when this Forge comes down, whether it's Nexus first and then the follow-up to that. Is it going to be a Mortal Sentry all-in? Is it going to be a 5 to 7 gateway push? Is it going to be a quick third base? Is it going to be some Warp Prism drops into, Sentry drops into the main base and force field off the ramp? All of these viable options. For Suppy, really on a Hana, a 2 base all-in is not viable. Unless you see 100% categoric evidence that your opponent is taking a super greedy third base, and I'm talking really early, like sort of 6 to 8 minutes early third base, then without that, you can't really go for a 2 base play. It's too easy to defend this ramp, and as a result, you've got to take your third base at around the 4 to 5 minute mark. So definitely expecting Suppy to be doing that, unless obviously Minigun does something super economical. But as we can see, the overall coming in, it was a Nexus first. That's pretty predictable. We do also have the Forge coming down now. 4 Zerglings out of Suppy. So these 4 Zerglings, what do they mean? Better map control, lower risk of getting cannon rushed, you get to stop any proxy pylons, you can also put on a little bit of pain, but the drawbacks, your third base is delayed, your drone count is obviously a bit lower, and as a result of that, you've got to do quite a lot of stuff. Most people go for 2 Zerglings. 4 doesn't matter, but personally, I think 2 Zerglings is ideal unless you're going to try and do damage. And getting 6 out, my goodness, this is really quite a big commitment. So basically, Suppy is just going to try and punch through here. There's no other reason you'd be getting that many Zerglings out. As you can see, ignoring that probe, just trying to really take advantage of the fact that his opponent went for that greedy Nexus first play. So in come these Zerglings. The pylon does complete the wall off though, but if they focus down this pylon, it will be pretty close if that can go down before the photon cannon actually completes. So if it does fall, obviously that is a big problem, but here comes the photon cannon now. It is going to complete. The pylon will fall. The Zerglings try and stream in, but of course with only 2 there, they will go down, but getting that pylon is obviously a big win for Suppy. In terms of the resources lost, it obviously makes it worse for the Protoss player. Now, looking up here, obviously the third base getting delayed, and it's not just delayed by this pylon, to be fair, it's delayed by Suppy's build. By getting out those 6 Zerglings, he has delayed this base by anything up to a minute, basically. And that probe did actually try to get the gateway, and it does manage to get the gateway down. That is so frustrating for a Zerg player. This is Minigun knowing that his opponent gave up some of his economic advantage in order to try and deal some damage. Minigun knows that Suppy was not able to deal enough damage. He wasn't able to get into the probe line. He just killed a pylon. And as such, if he's able to delay this base, the fact he went Nexus first is just going to put him so far ahead economically. It will be so frustrating for Minigun to try and come out of this. And obviously with just the drone and 2 Zerglings, and now the pylon coming down as well. My goodness, Minigun does not want this third base to land. And well, with that, this is already hugely delayed. We're at like 6 minutes. So when you think we're at the 6-minute mark, we usually see this come down at about 4 minutes 20. This base is 2 minutes after when a Zerg player would want to get it. So Suppy getting up to 2 gas now anyway, because that's the same normal supply. But if we look at the worker count, we can see here that it's still very close. And we've got a 2 base Zerg at the moment against a 2 base Protoss player. And that is only good news for Minigun. We've got, of course, Warp Gate Tech coming out. We've got the Robotic Facility, and if we flick over to Suppy's vision, he does not see that come down. So that is actually quite good news, and my mouse, for some reason, decided it did not want to go anywhere I wanted it to there. So sorry for the camera control, but basically, Suppy, he's getting down the road to one. Still a more normal time, and this is something that a lot of people can really take into account, that Suppy, his timings, and this is true for a lot of Zerg, even though this base was delayed, his gas came down at a normal time, his roach warren came down at a normal time, and as such, all the rest of his build stays the same. He's just got slightly less stuff. His lair timing also very, very normal. 3 additional gateways are now on the way for Minigun with the robotics facility, and the fact that we've got +1 getting chrono boosted out. That screams Immortal Sentry. It would make sense as well, because Suppy does not have the normal stuff we'd want, but actually it looks like we're going to get a War Prism out, so ooh, this is a fun build. We do also have the Proxy Pylon on its way, so what is this War Prism going to do? Drop into the main most likely, of course utilizing this cliff area at the side of the main base where you can just come in, you can drop stuff down here, and as we can see there's no overlords around here at all for Suppy at the moment, and as a result of that, there's no way he's going to be able to see this incoming. There's no overlords around the map other than these two here at the very back of the base. So as long as the War Prism goes in a relatively good angle, it should be fine. Meanwhile, these two Stalkers are going to try and get that Overlord. Speed is about to finish up though, and as such the Stalkers will 100% certainly die. This pylon will also get taken out. It is now spotted. The Immortal on its way out, but of course with Minigun being forced back here, with Suppy pushing these units so far forward, they're all out of position to deal with the drop plate. So this could be very problematic for the Zerg player. He's got to go and do some damage. We do see that this wall off is okay. There's the 2 sentries here. That's fine. You can get some good walls there. We've got a pylon trying to come down on the low ground. Some creep getting generated. Meanwhile, the War Prism there, ready to start going. So we should see some war pins fairly soon. The first Immortal nearly done. We've got obviously an additional gateway, 2 gateways on their way down now, and with the Immortal there, with the sentries, it's not going to have much of a nice time trying to deal with that. We've got a sentry, an additional sentry warping in there, so we're up to 3 sentries in this War Prism. The drop's going to come down, a force field on the ramp, and then this main base, and specifically this infestation pit, is going to get ransacked. That is the #1 target for Minigun right now. If he gets that out, he is going to be very happy indeed. He's morphing in more sentries as well, and as we can see, this is very problematic. We've got straight away the hatchery getting cancelled, we've got all these units getting pulled back, and all Minigun needs to do now is drop down that force field and just keep force fielding pretty much eternally, and he'll be fine. The drones are getting pulled now for Suppy. He's got to try and deal with this as best he can. We see them trying to get this around here. There are a couple of Zerglings there. A good little bit of pick up and drop micro. That sentry does need to make sure it stays up. You need to make sure you keep the force fields on the main ramp, and as we can see now, the drones just engaging head on, but look at this, a lot of zealots getting warped in, and with still the sentries being picked up and dropped, we can see straight away the Minigun is able to do a nice job here. He's still got energy for more force fields, he's keeping them up, making sure, but unfortunately one of them not quite on the money. That means straight away those units stream in. The zealots are still trying to go to town, but don't really manage to pick off any key pieces of tech as of yet. Behind this, Minigun is getting up the robotics facility, is getting up the +1 carapace. The 1-1 upgrades are on their way out for Suppy as well. He's going to go for a big counter attack. We see the Overlord has been taken out, but look at this. A large number of Immortals and Sentries are going to make defending this push relatively easy. Obviously, there is still an awful lot of units here, so the force fields are going to have to be good. And here we go. Suppy is trying to go in. He's streaming from every angle. The force fields do manage to block everything out. Of course, now this is a very good defensive position, and Minigun will be fine holding it. Was going to talk a little bit about workers killed. Minigun only killed 7 during this drop, but he's going for the drop yet again, and this is really nice play. He should focus down the infestation pit here, in my opinion. Delay those infestors massively, and you'll be having fun times. But still, we see yet more force fields on their way. The drones are getting taken out. As long as these units can't get in here, the zealots are going to have a very nice time indeed. We can see the Spore Caller moving over to come and take out this War Prism. The Spine Caller has now fallen. The drones are going to take damage as well, but more zealots getting warped in, more force fields going down. The sentries trying to get focused. Of course, if you get rid of the sentries, you're going to be fine, but drones don't automatically engage. So as we're seeing here, just constant aggression out of Minigun. He is just trying to take out everything. Surprised he hasn't gone for this infestation, but that is the only thing that is a little bit shocking. But in comes the infestor. Are we going to see a fungal growth? Yeah, there we go. But as we can see, the zealots about to take out the spawning pool. That is very frustrating for the Zerg player. And of course, we've still got Colossi in production behind this for the Protoss player. We've still got this main ramp force field in, only just ending now, but good amount of damage is done here now. 21 workers killed. As we can see, the Protoss player is still ahead in terms of the worker count, which is always great news. The Zealots are now getting cleaned up in the main base, but look at this. The third nearly up and running for Minigun. He's getting some cannons up. He's got the first Colossus on the field. The second one is nearly complete. Extended Thermal Lance coming down. Everything really piecing together. This Twilight Council will allow him to start the 2-2 upgrades. So that is great news. Suppy, he really needs to take this base. He needs to take his fourth to stay a base above his opponent. He isn't actually aware. He should be aware that this was coming down. You can probably guess just by the fact that you saw your opponent trying to take it earlier. But now we've reached the point where we have 2 Colossi out. It suddenly becomes a bit more difficult to deal with. Still, at 2 Colossi, you can engage this army head-on, but once it gets to 3 and 4, Roaches and Zerglings just melt to everything. For Suppy, he's getting up his Spire. He hasn't started his Hive yet. Meanwhile, for Minigun, we do of course have the Templar Archives ready to start getting Archons out. We've got more gateways on their way. Of course, the High Templar as well are very good at popping Infestors. That's something that you can feed back on the Infestor, you can get rid of them, and we can see Suppy is committing quite heavily already to that Infestor play. The fourth base is really critical. He needs to keep this up, and he needs to get up in a timely fashion, because, as we can see, 75 to 71 workers in the Protoss favour. A nice little containing wall up here, just to make sure that Zerglings don't have that much space to run through. Make sure that basically all of this aggression isn't going to be able to do too much. The War Prism is going to fall at long last, and that's a bit of a relief to the Zerg player in this situation, because you no longer have to worry about drops coming down. We've got Zerglings positioned really nicely, and if we actually take a look at the map vision for Suppy, we can see it's fantastic. He sees nearly all the map, whereas Minigun sees very little. And of course, map awareness is something that is so critical in a good StarCraft 2 game. So, let's think what we're going to be seeing in the short-term future. We've got Corruptors on the way out, and the Hive started. So the Corruptors just preparing to deal with the Colossi, but with only 2 out, you don't really need those 10 Corruptors. They're a bit of wasted resources, and as we can see, there's not really that much coming out. Just another War Prison. There's no more Colossi. Just grabbing some Archons. Minigun really going for a balanced force, and this is where things could get a little bit trouble if Suppy overcommits to those Corruptors. But of course, once the Hive is finished, the Greater Spire can start, and then those Corruptors will become Broodlords. It's just how much supply you take up with Corruptors before you can get those Broodlords out. So here we go. Minigun is moving across the map. He's going straight for that 4th base. Suppy needs to have a very good engagement here. Obviously, he is slightly ahead in the supply count, but we've got a good number of Immortals which are going to absolutely shred through the Roaches near instantly and really pick off the Infest as well. And then an awful lot of Zerglings, which aren't going to do too well against the Colossi and, of course, the Archons. So, as we're seeing here, the 4th base vaporizes near instantly. 2-2 upgrades are done for the Protoss player, and looking down here, my goodness, this is some good force. Those Infested Terrans getting locked down everywhere. The Colossi do get taken out by the Corruptors, but of course now their one and only job has been completed. The Immortals are doing some good damage. The Archons trying to clear out these Infested Terrans ASAP, and we can see the Suppy's supporting army is really falling. He's only got Infestors out now at the moment, apart from a handful of Roaches, and as such, Minigun has engaged very nicely there. We can see the resources lost are pretty equal, but most of the force for the Protoss is still there. Infestors melting to that Immortal Fire. The Archons are still staying up. We've got more Corruptors coming out, but of course nothing to deal with them, and as we can see, Minigun does take the game as Suppy GG's out in what was a very, very nice Protoss play there. And at the time of casting this, Minigun is actually rank 1 on the Grandmaster ladder. So, definitely great player. So thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you like the video, leave a cool comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you all tomorrow for yet another new cast. Bye for now.